Hello everyone, welcome to the training sessions, Parse with Octoparse in 3 minutes. In this tutorial, we'll walk you through how to troubleshoot when your task does not work. Hello guys, nice to see you again. This is Ina. Now I will explain how you're gonna work with the workflow to troubleshoot a task. In some cases, you may find the workflow looks good, but the data is not scraped in the way you want, so we'll need to troubleshoot to fix it. There will be 3 main steps to troubleshoot. Firstly, manually run the workflow. Secondly, adjust the settings of the workflow, and then to have a local test run. After explaining the logic of troubleshooting, I will list some common issues that you may have when scraping data with Octoparse. Let's see how we manually run the workflow first. What do we mean by manually running the workflow? Let's look at this example. As you can see, these actions in the workflow can be clicked. And when you click on one action, this action will be reflected in the built-in browser. For example, when we click Go to Web Page, you can see the web page is reloaded in the built-in browser because this action means to open the web page. And if I click on the Enter text, text is input to the web page. And then we click this click item, you can see the search button is clicked. This is how we manually run the workflow. It's like we are simulating the process of scraping manually by clicking the actions. And when the task runs, Octoparse does exactly the same as we do, but it just automates the process. So we just need to walk through the actions one by one, and following the logic of the workflow, we will see if everything is set up right. And before we manually run the workflow, we need to make sure the workflow order, the action orders in the workflow should be correct. So in case, for example, the loop item is out of the pagination, in case this happens, we can drag this back to the right position like this. All the steps can be dragged into the right place as we want. Now let's see how this workflow will be run. This workflow is designed for scraping products from Amazon pages by searching a keyword. Okay, and let's start on the top of the workflow and then follow the arrows to the end of the workflow. So the first step is go to web page, and then it will enter a keyword into the web page and click the search button. Then it will show a list of products. So here, let's follow the arrow. It should come to the pagination, but note that this is only locate the pagination button, but it does not click on the pagination button. So we need to follow the arrow to go down to the loop item. It will locate all the product links. Then it will click one product link and then extra data from the product detail page. Then it will go back to the loop item again to click the second product page, then extra data, and then go over this again until the last products. Then we should go down to the click to paginate. So now we'll go to the second page, and then it will go back here to the loop item again and go over all the products and then click pagination. So this will go over for several times until the last page. After knowing how the workflow works, we can follow the logic of the workflow to manually run it. And when we click through the actions, we need to watch in the built-in browser to see if the action is reflected correctly in here. Okay, let's start with the go to web page and see if the web page is loaded correctly, and enter text, see it is input in the correct position, and click button to check if the button is clicked and if the page loaded is the correct page. And then should go to the loop item, and you can see if the information, the products are loaded, and then go to the click item, see if the product page is loaded correctly. Last is extra data. Check if the fields here are scraped correctly. And then we need to go to click pagination. We can see if the page goes to the second page correctly. So this is how we manually run the workflow. In case you find something wrong during the process, you can go to the setting at the bottom of the workflow. Every time you click an action here, the settings will show here. And for the go to web page, you can adjust, you can update the URLs here and then adjust to the timeout. Other settings will be in the options. You can see clear cookies, use cookies, or scroll down. And retry means to reload the page under certain conditions. And for enter text, you will see you can update the text here. And if the text is not input in the correct position or it is not input, you can click this button and then choose the correct position, and the XPath here will be updated to the right one. The XPath means the path of the element on the web page. Octoparse uses this path to know which element to click or which element to enter the text. So this is quite important, but you can use this button to help you auto-generate one. And for the click item, it also has an XPath here, and you can also use this button to select an element to adjust it if this does not click the right button. And other important settings for the click item can be found in the options and retry. These single actions are easy to understand. The difficult part is about the loop. So I will elaborate more about this. A loop is a programming function that repeats an instruction continuously until a certain condition is reached. In Octoparse, a loop means to do the actions inside it repeatedly to the elements included in the loop list. For example, in this workflow, the loop includes a list of elements to click, and Octoparse will repeat the action of click to these elements in the loop list and extra data. That means Octoparse will click each link one by one from the loop list and get data from the linked pages. That's the basic logic of a loop. Now let's look at the loop settings. The first thing to pay attention is the loop mode. We have 6 kinds of loop modes. Text list and list of URLs are easy to understand. If you have a list of URLs to open or a list of text to input on the web page, you can use these 2 options. Variable list and fixed list are used to include a list of data elements on the web page. The difference is, variable list can include different numbers of elements that can be matched with a single XPath query. But fixed list is a list of XPath queries with each XPath locating unique element on the page. For example, you want to scrape from these categories, and we need to go to each category page first, then click into each sections under it. The number of sections are different to each category, so we may use a variable list to include the sections. If you do it a fixed list, for those categories that have more sections, they won't be scraped completely. The list of URLs, text list, variable list, fixed list, these four kinds of loop modes will end itself when, after all the elements in the loop are all worked through. That means, for example, in the variable list, this loop will end itself when all the product links inside this list have been clicked and extra data. Then it will get to the next step when this loop comes to end. Scroll page is just for scrolling the pages, which we have shown in our last webinar. This can be used to scrape pages that needs to be scrolled down to load more content. The last one we'd like to explain is the single element mode. It will include only one element with one XPath. The special thing about it is this loop won't end when this one element is worked through. This loop will repeat over and over again until the element disappears. Sounds familiar? This is how pagination works. Yes, pagination is actually a loop with single element mode. It ends when the next page button cannot be found. You can also set up end loop here to enter a number, and then this loop will repeat this fixed time. For example, it will go over 5 times, which means it will scrape 5 pages. Don't worry about how to choose the loop modes. Loop modes are usually selected automatically when we are creating the workflow by selecting elements and following the options on tips. You only need to pay attention to it when the workflow goes wrong. To troubleshoot this loop item, we can firstly check the elements that are included in this loop. Check if they are all what we want, and if there are any missing elements, you can try to modify this XPath here to locate all. Then we can choose the click item to see if the link could be clicked and the page is opened correctly. Then we can select another element from the loop list and then click item again to see if it is opened, and we can select other elements from this list again to check if they could all be clicked. Just check several of them, and then we can click the extra data to see if all the fields are correctly scraped. If there are any data fields that needs to be modified, you can do it in the data preview section. And for the pagination, we usually click on this to check if the next page is located correctly. You can see the text shown here. And then click the click to paginate to see if the page turns to the next page. And we could repeat the steps to see if we could go to the pages one by one. And we'll repeat it. Check if it goes to the next page. Do it several times to make sure it can go to the page we want. If everything works well when we manually run the workflow, we can run this task in the local to have a test. Local run will show a extraction window, and we can watch the scraping lively to see if any step gets stuck. So we click Run and Run on a device. And we can maximize the extraction window to watch it more clearly. Octoparse will simulate the process inside this built-in browser. You can watch it to open the web page and enter the text. Then click the first page and it will scrape the data into the data preview section. Let's see how the data are being scraped in the data preview section. And it will go over each product and scrape the data. In case you have seen something wrong during the scraping process, you can go back to the workflow to check it and revise the settings.